Rise Through the Clouds, Episode 7. Today's episode is about the role of accountability. The theme is embracing accountability as a tool for growth in faith and relationships. If you're like me, you missed the episode last week. I missed filming it. I hope y'all missed watching it. But we're back. And we're ready to start. So let's dive right into it. For my opener for today, accountability isn't always easy, but it's essential for growth, both spiritually and relationship-wise. Whether it's confessing sins, setting goals, or having someone to pray with, God calls us to live in community. So today, we will talk about how accountability can help us grow closer to Him and one another. So starting out my first point, accountability isn't just a helpful practice, it is a biblical principle rooted in love, growth, and, as I mentioned, community. Proverbs 27:17, I have mentioned this one before in one of my previous episodes. It's, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. And this verse is a reminder of, one, who you surround yourself with, and two, that we are designed to grow together and not in isolation. So, more specifically, spiritual growth requires refinement. And just like, iron sharpening iron involving friction, growth often requires challenge and correction. God uses people in our lives to refine our character and deepen our faith all the time. And through that community, we can be brought into a sense of self-awareness because we are blind to our own flaws. We have blind spots, just like in, when you're driving in a car. And accountability brings in a second set of eyes, helping us to see the areas that we might not recognize on our own as flaws. And listening to them and having those people for you also coincide with obedience and community and how they are intertwined. The Bible consistently calls us, to live in community. In Galatians 6:1-2, or Hebrews 10:24-25. And accountability is how we fulfill one another's, quote, commands, urging and encouraging each other towards godliness. Applying this and really incorporating it into your life can look like inviting people into your life and trusting people, surrounding yourself and making a conscious effort to involve people that will speak to you and that will speak truth into your life and love you the way that you deserve to be loved. It doesn't matter who it is. It could be a mentor, a friend, or a group of people that you trust and love, or maybe trying to get to know and everything like that. Because as I said, growth doesn't happen in isolation. And growth also doesn't happen if you aren't open to it. So with this, you have to stay open to correction. And when someone points out a blind spot or a potential flaw, we have to resist the urge to get defensive and remember that iron sharpens iron and that the process isn't smooth or comfortable in any way, shape, or form, but it is for your good. I know personally I struggle with that, and maybe less now than I did previously, but in general I have, because I had, it's hard to not take, quote, constructive criticism, not to heart. They're doing it for your betterment, and they're not doing it to tear you down. Depending on who you're surrounding yourself with. But nevertheless, being open to that and being self-aware is always going to help you and push you towards the proper growth that you need to go to. And, through that, it's also, like I said, surrounding yourself with those positive people, but then also making sure that you're practicing mutual accountability. And it's not just about being corrected or, being responsible for something. It's also about being the person who encourages, uplifts, and goes through journeys with people, being the, quote, iron for someone else as they are to you. Another connection to that is staying committed to the community and, go to church, or if you want to do something related to that, do a small group or a Bible study, something that is non-negotiable, like make it non-negotiable and have that be like your real accountability. And, that happens over time too, showing up, being vulnerable, and leading into the discomfort of growth and just staying committed to that. Now, the other side of that, in my first point, I said, bring in trustworthy people. So the thing to follow that is, finding trustworthy people and accountability partners. And not everyone is equipped to walk with you through the deeper waters of accountability or the struggles of everyday life. Trustworthy partners are chosen with care and discernment and rooted in shared faith and respect for one another. A good way of explaining it is character over charisma, and choosing someone who will walk the walk and not, just talk the talk. And it's integrity and humility and consistency again. And those are, those key signs of someone who's, there for you and is someone that you can bring into that circle and will help you with your problems and burdens and listen to you. And of course, accountability only works in a space of safety, and there has to be mutual trust and confidentiality. So a trustworthy partner won't gossip or judge, but will hold your struggles as important or sacred and encourage you in a loving, Christianly way, rather than, going and telling everybody about XYZ, all your business and all of that such. Another thing to keep in mind and to, look for is someone who is spiritually mature. Not perfect, because none of us are perfect, but mature in their faith and actively growing in their relationship with God and capable of speaking with truth and with grace and following the way that we're supposed to as Christians. My third point in this connects the two of finding trustworthy people and why accountability is important. And it's it's balancing grace and truth while holding each other accountable. In John 1:14, Jesus embodied both grace and truth, and we are called to do the same. And how it was explained to me is that accountability without grace becomes legalism, and grace without truth becomes permissiveness. And that the sweet spot for that is where love motivates correction rather than anything else. A lot of people will call themselves truthful, or, oh, I'm just being honest, or I'm just a blunt person, or something like that. But truth without love behind it hurts people. And confrontation, is sometimes necessary, but without love and gentleness, it can do far more harm than good. More specifically, Ephesians 4:15 calls us to speak the truth in love. It says, instead of speaking truth in every aspect the mature body of him who is the head, that is Christ. Following that is grace without truth enables sin. Being nice isn't the same thing as being loving. Sometimes the most gracious thing that we can do is, pull someone gently back to the truth, even if it is a little uncomfortable. but grace without truth is enabling sin or problems. And really honestly, I think the biggest point of this one is that timing, tone, and relationships matter. And that accountability works best within the context of a trusted relationship. So before correcting someone, take a second to pause and have a mental conversation with yourself. And are you saying this out of the heart of love? Are you saying this at the right time? Are you speaking to this person with the right tone? And if the answer is no to any of those, then you should probably stop before you say anything and reroute yourself and figure out what you need to say, how you need to say it, and when you need to say it, so it comes from a place of love. Or determine if you don't need to say it to them at all. My first question for today's podcast episode is, what does accountability look like in your life? Who keeps you grounded in your faith and your everyday? Personally, I like to think of it as I'm like a kite, and the question is, who's holding the string, keeping you tethered and not flying away? So the answer for that for me is, I would say my parents, probably, because they are, devout Christians themselves, and while they raised me in the church, they also gave me the freedom to find my place. And I think by doing that, they helped me really stabilize roots and find myself through my faith and where I belonged. And through that, it kept me from, maybe going someplace that I shouldn't have. And they brought me to where I needed to go, which was church. And then they, quote, let me loose there so that I could, find my place. But they were still holding on to my string. They still are holding on to my string. And I'm really grateful for that, because I'm happy where I am with my faith, and I'm, really excited to keep growing in my faith. And I think that they really helped me and cultivated this specific culture in my childhood and now early adulthood to where I can feel comfortable like that. My second question is, have you ever had to lovingly hold someone accountable, and how did you approach it? I can't think of a specific example, but I've definitely had to approach someone and maybe not ask them, do you think you should be doing this? Or I think the question I typically ask people is, what are you gaining from this? Because, is there a point to this? Are you helping someone, or are you helping yourself, or something of the sort? Who is gaining from what's happening? What are you gaining? What is someone else gaining? All of those things. A third question is kind of twisting a second question, but it's, who in your life has spoken hard truths to you in love? Who in your life has spoken hard truths to you in love? I think in my more recent years that person has probably been my brother. And he'll tell it to me straight, truly. But the way that him and I converse now, and the way that he, explains things for me and stuff and imparts his wisdom upon me, he really has spoken some hard truths that have, hit me to my core. And either helped me come to a conclusion about something, or change my perspective on what I was or wasn't acknowledging. And I really think that he's helped me grow in those ways. And I'll, consistently reflect back to something he had said to me in a new situation. And so it continues to help me, despite it not relating directly to that situation. Now to connect some scriptures with some more questions. Galatians 6:2 says, "Carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ." So, this calls us to carry each other's burdens. And the question following this is, how can we create safe spaces for accountability in our communities? A good one is about being equal, in that carrying someone's burdens means walking with someone through their issues and the storm and their struggles, not just pointing out their flaws or anything like that. It's standing beside them and not standing above them. And I think that's a really crucial thing, because pointing out something and then just, kind of leaving it there, being a little possibly judgmental about it and not being willing to help them with it is the wrong way to approach it. And then another thing for the wrong way to approach it is, if someone comes to you about something, try to avoid fixing it, like, immediately. Try listening first. Because sometimes, helping people carry their burdens is about being present, listening well, and, praying with them rather than offering solutions. A thing that I saw once was when I saw this woman post about how her and her husband did this thing where if one was complaining to the other, the one who was listening would say, "Do you want comfort or do you want a solution?" And she said that it was a really helpful way of, one, not starting an argument between them if the other one started trying to fix the situation when all they wanted is comfort, but also really brought a closeness to their relationship and helped them understand each other better. And I think that was a great thing, because sometimes you just want to have a moment and you really want to just talk about it. Maybe you're not ready to fix it yet, or it just happened, you need to process, so you need to process aloud, and you just want someone to hear you and be there with you. And so I think that's a really good thing to acknowledge and to really bring to a relationship when trying to be accountable with one another. I also cannot stress this enough. Confidentiality is like one of the biggest things. There is no trust or safety in a relationship if someone cannot come to you and tell you something in confidence without you going and telling someone else. People should be able to trust you with their burdens, their secrets, or anything that they need to tell you without that person or you going and telling anybody and everybody under the sun, because that breaks relationships and hurts people. So I cannot stress that enough. A final thing to think of is that people will share once you share, kind of thing. Safe spaces start with vulnerability. And if you share something first about a struggle or a relationship or something of the sort, other people are more likely to follow in suit. So if we as Christians are open about our brokenness, it gives other believers the permission to do the same. Your courage to speak first could give someone else the confidence to also talk about what they need to talk about. And yeah, it can totally be scary because you're like, oh, I don't want to be the first person to talk, like in a small group setting or something. But it will help someone else, whether you know it or not. On to the next scripture-related question is related to Colossians 3:13, which says, "Bear with each other and forgive one another. If any of you have grievance against someone, forgive as the Lord forgave you." So this is telling us to, bear with one another and to forgive people for their mistakes. So the question to follow this is, how can forgiveness shape the way that we approach accountability?
A good thing to remind yourself of is that all of us are not perfect.
And that we are all, DIY works in progress. And that accountability has to be rooted in compassion.
Bearing with one another means giving someone the space to,
Live their life, go through their struggles and problems, and make their own mistakes, while walking alongside each other in grace and being there to help them when they do stumble.
And this next one kind of relates to the golden rule that we're all taught, which is treat people how you want to be treated. We cannot hold others to a standard that we ourselves ignore. What I mean by that is the reminder to forgive as Christ forgave us should keep our hearts soft. And then when we remember our own mistakes and remember our own need for grace, we extend it more freely to others. So, if you're really upset with someone, flip the roles and think, would I want this person to forgive me in this situation? And kind of go from there. Again, treat people how you want to be treated, and don't hold someone to a standard that you would ignore if the roles were reversed. And if people know that they will be met with grace instead of rejection or judgment, they'll be more likely to be honest and to seek help and grow as a person. Because knowing that you're a safe space and that forgiveness is going to be coming from you, it removes the fear of being shamed and removes the fear of being judged, and just altogether removes the fear of talking to somebody about a mistake you made or a problem that you have. And I think another big one is that accountability does not mean punishment.
And that the goal of accountability isn't to catch someone doing something wrong, but to bring them back and then help them walk in that freedom. And forgiveness is a central part to that in that process. Because, for example, you can always relate to your parents. They love you and they will forgive you, but they need to put you back on that right path. So while they may do things to, quote, punish you for a behavior, that doesn't mean that punishment automatically equals, or it doesn't mean that accountability always equals punishment. They are trying to keep you accountable and keep you responsible. And when that isn't met, it's common for there to be something, to deter you from that. And I think that needs to be emphasized because, it's something that we all need to be taught. We all need to be accountable for our actions and for each other. But it doesn't mean punishment. As we wrap up today's conversation, what I want to leave you with is accountability isn't someone hovering over you. It's someone walking with you, and vice versa. You aren't supposed to hover over someone and make sure they don't make any mistakes. It's to hold their hand and walk with them as they go through everything that they go through. And it's also about choosing community over isolation as God calls us to. Truth over comfort and grace over shame. When we step into new relationships marked by honesty and truth and love, not only do we grow, but we can help others grow as well. And again, whether it's confessing sins, speaking hard truths, or just checking in on someone's heart, every act of accountability becomes a small act of discipleship. It's never going to be easy. It's not always easy. But it is always going to be worth it. And so, I suppose a question that I can leave you with that I myself will also ponder is, who sharpens you? Who do you sharpen? And how can you make space for grace-filled truth
in all of your relationships. So let's just keep showing up for one another and live a godly way. Try to be more godly in our relationships. Anywho, thank you all so much for listening and or watching today. I enjoyed filming this episode. I always do. There will be one next week because there's no break or anything. I'm super excited. I'm always excited. And yeah, that's all I have for you today. So I love you. God loves you. And I'll see you later. Bye.